Well, we're just days away from voting in the presidential election, and tonight we've our latest big interview in the race for the Áras. This evening we're talking to Fine Gael's Heather Humphreys. Well, good evening and welcome to the latest of our big interviews in the race for the Áras, with the candidates hoping to be president. Last week we had independent Catherine Connolly in an interview slot that was randomly assigned. Tonight, for the next half hour, it's Fine Gael's Heather Humphreys. And Heather, you're very welcome to the big interview. So we're about 5 days out from polling. You're trailing significantly in the polls. And last night, Fine Gael dropped this very Americanised, negative campaign-style video. The leader of the Social Democrats, Holly Cairns, who's backing Catherine Connolly, she says it shows you're in complete panic mode.
Absolutely not. I am out and about. I'm meeting people and people are coming up to me and saying to me, Heather, we want you to be our president. And I've had a huge response when I'm out on the ground. And I think there's one thing I've learned from this campaign. We have a wonderful country and I want to be the president of this country if people would put their trust in me, because I'm somebody that wants to unite this country. I'm also somebody that is a common sense, pro-European, centrist person.
OK, well, Heather, whatever about the parties that are backing Catherine Connolly, even the likes of Fianna Fáil's Justice Minister Jim O'Callaghan, he's weighed into this and criticised this video as well. He says just because a lawyer takes on a case for a client, it doesn't mean that the lawyer is endorsing the behaviour or opinions of that client.
Yeah, well, this isn't about the barrister. This is not, and I'm sure that Catherine is a very good barrister, and I know many people who are barristers, and I absolutely respect the job that they do. But the point here is it's double standards, because Catherine was representing banks to repossess houses, and at the same time she was standing up and she was criticising the very same banks. She was calling them criminals. She did that in Galway City Council and she did it in the Dáil.
Okay,
so it's about
Gael,
double
Heather,
standards.
It's supposed to be the party of law and order, and one of the most basic principles, as you know, in law is that the barristers work within their own competency and they take the briefs that's assigned to them, and if they go against that, you know, they're completely undermining the law. They're completely undermining the legal system.
Yeah, but this isn't about the barristers. This is about the fact that Catherine Connolly was working on behalf of the banks, and at the same time she was standing up in a public forum as an elected representative, and she was saying
You take issue with the fact that she didn't say she was a barrister working for the banks.
Yeah, well, why was she? It was double standards. In one stage, she was talking to she was working for the banks and people were being evicted from their homes, and then in the next minute she was standing up and she was saying that the banks were criminals.
But she put on the register of interest that she's a barrister, and that's all she has to do. I mean, we have Fine Gael barristers, we have Fianna Fáil barristers. What about the Fine Gael barristers who've represented people who've been accused of things like fraud, of people trafficking, all that kind of thing? They don't stand up on the Dáil and tell people what they're doing.
Yeah, but the point is here, it is double standards. Absolutely. That is the point, is that at one minute, she's speaking out of both sides of her mouth. That is the problem here. She's giving out about the banks, and at the same time, she's working for the banks to repossess houses on behalf of Irish people.
All right. You were at the cabinet table for 10 or 11 years. Fine Gael has been in government for, more than 15 years now at this stage. We have record homelessness, record house prices, record rents. More than 5,000 children don't have their own home. You were at the cabinet table during that time as a minister, and all that there is that goes along with the fact that there's collective responsibility, and that was on your watch, Heather Humphreys.
Yeah, well, of course I want to see people with houses, and I don't want to see children that are on the poverty line. But can I just say, when I went into government in 2011, we were at record unemployment. There were 500,000 people unemployed. And of course, I went in and I stepped up to the plate and I made difficult decisions.
You voted not to extend the eviction ban.
Yeah, well,
that would have kept people in their homes, wouldn't it?
Well, just to say, I had to make difficult decisions when I was in government. And the point is, am I glad I did it? I'm glad I did go in because...
Are you glad you voted not to extend the eviction ban?
Well, I can explain the eviction ban. The eviction ban was a temporary measure during COVID, and during that time the number of people that were homeless actually increased, so it wasn't working, and it was reversed.
And people ended up out of their homes as a direct result of that eviction ban not being extended.
Yeah, the point I'm making here is, am I glad I went into government? Yes, I am. And I'll tell you why. Because I was able to make changes. I was able to bring in things like auto-enrolment, which is a pension scheme for 800,000 people that currently have no pension scheme. I was able to make a difference. And it's easy for those people who decided to sit on the ditch.
Okay,
the hurlers on the ditch, and we have a lot of them. They stayed in opposition. But a lot of good people stepped up to the plate.
Okay, I want to ask you, Heather Humphreys, about your time as manager of Coot Hill Credit Union, because you've spoken a lot about that time, and you say, you know, the credit union was at the very heart of communities, and you've heard a lot from people about the difficulties they were facing and the financial problems they were facing. Yes. Did you, as manager of Coot Hill Credit Union, chase people through the banks for bad debt?
I never, Colette, I never evicted anybody out of their home. And I can sit here and tell you that now. I never, ever evicted any person out of their home. Did you try and
recover bad debt and go after people through the courts as manager of Coot Hill Credit Union?
Well, I think it's important to remember that if you work in a financial institution, people who don't pay their loans for whatever reason, some of them, you try to work with people. I worked with people and sent them to MABs to get the money advice to see what they could do to try and find solutions. And when you've exhausted all of those channels, and believe you me, there are a lot of channels and people get a lot of chances. When you have exhausted all of those channels, I'll just finish. When you have exhausted all of those channels, there is a duty to collect the debt that is owed to the credit union. And yes, every credit union did the same thing.
So you did?
Yeah, there were people that had to go to court, but I didn't evict anybody out of their houses. That's completely different.
There were no repossession cases?
Absolutely not.
Okay, but you did chase people through the courts?
Well, you have to pay your debts. Otherwise, there'd be no credit unions.
Okay, are you happy with that answer?
Well, I honestly, I can tell you now that it's a normal course in any bank or in any credit union that if people don't pay their debts, then you do have to.
And I guess Catherine Connolly would say it's normal course. It's a last resort for, you know, in
no, but it's not evictions.
Case.
Now, it's something different here you're talking about. I never evicted anybody out of their home.
OK, let's talk about the ad, because this is the very basis of the ad. Who came up with the idea? Did you come up with the idea? Did your campaign team come up with the idea behind this ad?
Which ad? Sorry.
The Fine Gael ad.
The Fine Gael.
The Fine Gael ad about Catherine Connolly, the negative campaigning ad that we were talking about at the top of the programme.
Sorry, I wasn't sure what you were talking about there.
Yeah. Did you come up with the idea, or your campaign team?
Well, the campaign team put this video out, and that's fair enough because there's questions to be answered. There are still questions that haven't been answered.
So it wasn't from Fine Gael HQ, it was your own campaign team?
Yeah, well, it was Fine Gael. I didn't put the video together, let's face it, and the video's gone out there, but it raises legitimate questions. Now, I have answered every question that I've been asked during this campaign. There are a number of questions that Catherine has not answered.
I just want to focus on the video at the moment, because it's not on your own social media channels. It's on the Fine Gael social media channels. So does that mean you had some qualms about it, or do you fully endorse it?
No, I think the video outlines very clearly the position where somebody is talking out of both sides of their mouth. On one hand, they're working behind closed doors to evict people out of their homes, and on the other hand, they're standing up in a public forum and they're clearly stating that banks should not be evicting people.
How would you feel if Catherine Connolly's team posted a similar video in that very personalised style about you?
Well, I can tell you, I have never made myself the victim in any of this, and I've never played the role of the victim. But I can tell you about some of the media that's going out about me. The amount of abuse that my family have received during this campaign on social media, and it's coming from the far left. I'll just finish and I'll just tell you, the amount of abuse that they have received, I've never seen the like of it before. The amount of sectarian abuse that has been out there in terms of about my religion and my traditions and where I come from. And I can tell you where I come from. I come from a minority community in County Monaghan, and I'm a very proud Republican. I'm a very proud Republican in the sense of Wolfe Tone, in the sense of Henry Joy McCracken and the United Irishmen of 1798. And there's even a video out there, if you want to, just to tell you about the videos, Colette. There's a video out there of a person in a balaclava putting up a very sectarian poster of me, and it's there for everybody to see.
All right, OK. But I just want to focus on the campaign at the moment. Was it always the plan, Heather, to sort of change tack at this stage of the campaign and go the way you were going? Or did you actually take Ivan Yates' advice?
Ivan Yates has nothing to do with my campaign.
Have you spoken to him?
No, I haven't spoken to him, no.
Are you raging with him?
Look, Ivan Yates is entitled to make comments as he sees fit. As far as I'm concerned, I don't take advice from Ivan Yates, and he's probably helped Catherine Connolly's campaign by virtue of the fact that every time anybody asks her a question, she says it's me.
There's a clear change of tactic here now with the final days of the campaign. Do you believe you can bridge the gap with this clear change in tactic? Do you believe in yourself, Heather Humphreys?
I absolutely believe in myself. I want to be president of this country because I believe that I bring qualities such as experience and compassion and understanding to this role, and I do want to be president.
You spoke to my colleague Gavin Riley for his book The Secrets of Leinster House, and you said to him, there's a direct quote in the book, that you left politics because you start to run out of ideas. That's what you said to him. Yeah,
well, and that's still the case, because I was 10 years a minister. I was at the front line of politics for 10 years. I'd given it absolutely everything, and I took a step back. And to be quite honest with you, I got a wonderful rest, and I got an opportunity in August. And I took the opportunity because I know that the presidency is a different role, and I know that I bring a huge amount of experience.
Do you feel you're kind of battling this kind of establishment candidate sort of, you know, you're the only one here who's the face of the government? We're just after coming out of a very difficult budget that nobody was really happy with, including the people who get up early in the morning. Is that a big problem for you?
Well, I feel I'm the experienced candidate because I spent many years as Minister for Business. I represented this country on the international stage in terms of opening doors for Irish businesses, and we can never take our exports for granted, and we continually need to do that. And if I'm elected president, I am committed to travelling the world on behalf of Irish businesses in conjunction with the Minister for Enterprise of the day to open doors so that we can protect the jobs in this country and create more jobs. I have also represented Ireland both culturally during 2016. I brought people together, and that was a very unifying time in our history.
Do you think the party, Fine Gael the party and Fianna Fáil, have they done enough to support you and help you with this campaign? Because we know Simon Harris, he wasn't around in the middle of the campaign. I know he was out with you recently, but have you gotten enough support from the party?
No, I have got good support across the board, and it's not just from Fine Gael. I have had many Fianna Fáil people have come out to support me. I've had former Taoiseach support me. I've had former commissioners support me. I have people from the Labour Party, people from the Green Party, and most importantly...
Jim O'Callaghan wasn't very supportive today.
Well, Jim O'Callaghan answered a question, and I'm glad he clarified it, because my issue is not with barristers, as you know, but what I can say to you, I have a lot of people supporting me, and I have a lot of independents. I have Michael Healy-Rae, I have Noel Grealish, I have Sean Canny, I have Marion Harkin. These are all ministers, and they are all supporting me, independent people.
I want to speak to you now about disability proposals that you put into circulation when you were minister, and the fear and the stress and the hurt and the trauma that caused within the disability community and their families and their carers.
Well, first of all, Colette, can I just say that I've always supported people with disabilities, and the track record is there. I increased the disability payments right across the board on numerous budgets. I also brought in a free travel pass for people who are medically unfit to drive. and that was mainly impacted people who had epilepsy. I brought in another law called Catherine's Law, and that was a young girl who had got a scholarship, and she was going to lose her disability allowance. And I spoke to Catherine, and I listened to Catherine, and I was the first minister that changed that law. So I have a good track record in terms of helping
on these
people.
Proposals, it was meant to be a three-tier system, with the lower tier if you had the greater capacity to work. Wasn't that the proposal? That was the way it was meant to work?
Well, I'll just explain the background here. I received a report, a cost of disability report, and it clearly said in that report that people who had more profound disabilities, it cost them more to live. And I published a consultation document. It was called a green paper. It was purely for consultation. It was for nothing else. And I published that. And I went out to the various groups. I went to various disability groups. I had public meetings about it. And I talked to a lot of people. And I'll tell you what I found. And I've always consulted, by the way. Consultation is what I have always done. I consulted on auto-enrolment. I consulted on many other things.
All right, well, I want to stick to the disabilities for the moment. So the proposal here, Heather, was that the 250,000 people who get the allowance, every year they would be medically assessed or examined. It would be compulsory, and it would be all to assess their level of disability. What would that look like, medically examining people with disabilities?
No, that wasn't the proposal. That was not the what I wanted to do was have a conversation. This was a conversation on how I could increase the payments and give more money to people who are more profoundly disabled.
On the tier 3.
No, there was never about cutting payments. This was going to cost an extra 130 million. But what happened was there were people who were not happy with it, and it was never my intention to cause distress to anybody.
These are people who can't get therapies, Heather. There's people watching us tonight and they're in extreme discomfort, in extreme pain. They're on waiting lists. We know some people have died in this country on waiting lists, and the stress and the trauma these proposals cause to them. And you've been accused of robustly defending these proposals and not taking on some of the suggestions that were put to you.
No, well, that's not true. I did not defend any of the proposals. I looked...
But you were the minister, you put the proposals
Just let
out
me
there.
finish, please, Colette. Let me finish, exactly. It was purely for discussion purposes. It was for no other reason, to have a conversation. And I could see that people weren't happy with it. So what I said to my officials is, this is not working. Back to the drawing board. I withdrew the green paper. Okay, so I withdrew it. I listened to people. As I said, I have always tried to consult. And indeed, all throughout my career, I have consulted at different groups to find out what they wanted.
It was withdrawn 3 days after Simon Harris became leader, wasn't it?
No, it was withdrawn because I knew that people weren't happy. I did not want to cause them distress or upset, so I clearly said to my officials, and this is the truth, I said to them, that's it, lads, back to the drawing board.
So was the whole point of this in the first place to investigate? Were there people on disability that you thought shouldn't be on disability?
Absolutely not. That is not the intention here. The intention here was to try and find a way so we could give more money. It was going to cost an extra 130 million at least, so we could give more money to people who are more profoundly disabled, who have extra costs. There's no question about that. It was never, ever about cutting payments.
So essentially it was a climb down. You must regret circulating these proposals in the first place.
No, isn't it better to find out and to talk to people? And I don't have a monopoly on good ideas, and I never had. But I went out, I spoke to people, and I knew they weren't happy, and I withdrew it, and I said, that's it, we go again.
OK, I want to talk to you about Lucia Farrell, whose son Shane was killed by a man who was out on bail. And you have been asked about this repeatedly across this campaign, and you have said you are sorry, you've said you're very sorry, but you did your very best. Now, you did not vote in support of a public inquiry in June 2018. You did not support a public inquiry in July of 2024. You didn't attend a vigil for Shane outside Leinster House. You didn't acknowledge or reply to a letter from Shane's mother. Heather Humphreys, if that was your very best, what would your worst look like?
Well, can I just say that I spoke to Lucia Farrell on this matter. I spoke to her for, I'd say, about an hour and a half the first time that I heard about the loss of Shane. And can I just say it would break anybody's heart. I'm a mother too, and I had children around the same age as her, Shane, and that could have been any of us. And it really is heartbreaking what the O'Farrell family, had to put up with the loss of their dear son. Can I just say that I did everything I could. I made representations to ministers.
You didn't vote in support of public inquiries. You didn't attend the vigil.
Yeah, well, just to be clear here, I did everything I could, and I really am sorry that the O'Farrell family feel it wasn't enough.
Why didn't you just go to the vigil and meet them outside?
Yeah, well, to be quite honest, I don't actually know where I was, but I can explain to you about the voting on in the Dáil. I was actually abroad. I was on a trade mission in another country when that actually took place.
Have you
so I
spoken
couldn't
to
be
Lucia
there.
Farrell during this campaign, because this has come up so often?
Yeah. No, I haven't spoken to her during the campaign, but if I'm elected president, I will sit down and I will speak to her. But can I just say that I am sorry that I didn't get the answers that they wanted. I genuinely am sorry. And I'm sorry, I'm glad she has got the state apology. And I'm sorry that she didn't get it sooner.
And if you're not elected president, Heather Humphreys, will you meet her?
I will talk to Lucia Farrell, absolutely. I have no problem meeting her. But what I can say to you is that I genuinely did my best. There were two separate inquiries taking place. There was one through GSOC, that finished, and then there was a judge-led inquiry. And it would have, as a minister, you are limited in what you can do because you cannot interfere when there's inquiries taking place. You were only a Minister for Justice
for 6 months.
No, as a minister, I said, not just as that. As a minister, so if you can't interfere in these processes and you are curtailed in what you can do.
But voting in support of a public inquiry or going to a vigil would not be considered interference, just to be clear.
Look, well, I told you where I was. I told you where I was when that vote took place. I was actually on a trade mission. But what can I say? Only that I'm sorry. I really am sorry. And I wish that I could say something that would bring her son back. And I'm sorry for the O'Farrell family and all that they've had to go through. And I'm glad they got their state apology. And I'm sorry that they feel that I haven't done enough. I genuinely am.
I sense you're getting a little bit emotional talking about this.
Well, I feel sorry for her because, believe you me, we all have children and that could have been any of us. The person that killed her son shouldn't have been on the road that day.
OK. All right, we're going to move on. I want to talk to you about animal welfare and animal cruelty because there's sort of mixed stories around on this. What is your position on fox hunting and hare coursing?
Well, I've never been at a fox hunt in my life and I've never been at a hare coursing event in my life. But these are rural pursuits and these there are rules and regulations around these events and once they're complied with, I support them.
So you don't condemn fox hunting or hare coursing at all?
As I said, I support rural pursuits. They've been going on for hundreds of years and I support them.
But you're on record as saying you abhor animal cruelty.
Yeah.
But if a fox is being ripped limb from limb and is dying a slow and agonising death, how can you say you abhor animal cruelty?
Well, this, as I said, these are rural pursuits and have been for many, many years. And
a lot of people simply don't agree with them. They say there's no place in a modern country for fox hunting and hare coursing.
Yeah, well, there's people that, they get involved in these sports. As I said, there are rules and regulations around them, and provided the rules and regulations are adhered to.
Fox hunting in particular, Heather Humphreys, it's a particularly, it's a sport associated with wealthy people, isn't it? For their entertainment.
Well, I have never been at a fox hunt. And it's not, well, I think...
But you support it?
Yeah, well, there's hunting clubs that aren't... There's hunting clubs that are... local people go fox hunting. Some people I know go fox hunting and they're ordinary farmers and ordinary people. They're certainly not wealthy people. All
right, I want to ask you about Irish. How much do you think it matters that you don't speak Irish?
Well, I went to secondary school and I learned Irish. I sat Irish for my leaving certificate and I did well at Irish. I went into the world of work and I didn't have an opportunity to use it. And it's the old adage, if you don't use it, you lose it. Now, I commit to going back to refreshing my Irish.
You committed before,
yeah,
and that's the
and
issue that people have.
Yeah,
and you broke your promise,
No, I
Heather.
didn't. I didn't break my promise.
But
I went to the Gaeltacht. I went to the Gaeltacht.
Not for a very long time.
Yeah, well,
you're not fluently speaking Irish at the moment.
Well, I wouldn't be bad at it, to be quite honest with you. Agus bawaitlum a bheith abalta níos mór Gaeilge a labhart.
But I guess if people want to know, will you keep your promise, they look at your past record and you said you'd do it and you didn't do it.
Right, well, let me explain. I went to the Gaeltacht and I had a great week in the Gaeltacht, and the Gaeilge was coming back to me. And do you know what's wrong with me? It's confidence. It's confidence in speaking it. If you told me to write it, I could sit down here, I could write Irish, but it's the confidence. And I promise that I will return to the Gaeltacht. And I'll tell you what happened. I went to the Gaeltacht, but I was moved into another department at the time. I went into the Department of Business. I was dealing with Brexit, then I was dealing with COVID.
OK, I want to move on because we're up against the clock here. I want to ask you about Donald Trump. If he comes to the country and you're president, will you congratulate him on what he's done in the Middle East?
Well, if Donald Trump, if he comes to this country and if I am fortunate enough to be elected president, I will beat him, and I respect his mandate. He is a democratically elected president of the US. And of course, I'm glad that the bombs have stopped in Gaza.
Will you congratulate him?
Well, look, it's early days yet. And I think what we need to do is keep working on it.
Right.
This is a process. There's a lot of work to be done. And I saw women on the television this evening, and all they want to do is to waken up so that their children are safe in the beds beside them. OK,
the salary, it's nearly 350,000. I think it's 320,000. Are you going to keep all of it? Because we know that Michael D. Higgins, he was on about 250 for a long period of time voluntarily. Are you going to keep all of your salary? Yeah, well, I will do what he did, which is I will give back my pension. Mm-hmm. Your presidential pension?
No,
your ministerial
pension. Yes, I will give that back.
But you'll take the full salary?
I'll take the salary, but when you give back the pensions, it reduces it considerably. OK.
Is Eric going to move into the Áras with you? Because I know he's got the farm to run. Yeah. Is it going to be kind of an up and down thing?
No, he'll come with me. He has always been with me. We were 38 years married on the 3rd of October, and the both of us nearly forgot. And he will come with me. He's always been behind me. And if I didn't have somebody supporting me like him, you need the support at home to be in politics.
Okay, what about the trappings of the Áras? Will you keep them all in place? I mean, there's a staff of about 30 up there. I think there's 30 rooms. Are you going to keep all them, or does it need to be slimmed down?
Look, I don't know exactly what's in the Áras. I've been there a few times. There's wonderful staff there. I've been up there for different events, and indeed I did travel with President Higgins on a state visit. There's a lot of work goes on in the Áras, I suppose, that a lot of us don't even know about.
All right. I asked Catherine Connolly last week at the end of our interview to say something positive about you. So can you say something positive about Catherine Connolly?
Well, I think Catherine Connolly is a woman of conviction. I admire people who believe in themselves, they believe in what they want to do. And there are many women of conviction right across this country. I think it's great to see that in somebody. And I'll just finish on this. My mother once, I was reared on a farm in County Monaghan, and my mother once said to me, there's no job you can't do. And I think it might have been to make sure I did the farming duties, but I can tell you one thing, those words stuck with me for the rest of my life.
Are you going to be in Dublin Castle, Heather Humphreys, on Saturday?
On Saturday, it's the count. Well, now, I usually don't go to the count, because if you're standing watching boxes open, it's actually going to be counted in all the regional centres first, and after that, then the results will, I think, go to Dublin Castle. But I don't normally go to the count. I sort of block out the media and just take a little break. All right. If you don't make it to the Áras, what are the implications for Simon Harris, your party leader? Well, I'm very confident that I will make it to the Áras, and I have to say Simon has been a great support to me, and he works extremely hard. There's no doubt about that, and of course he's in the government, and he's in the job of running this country. Look, I'm sure that Simon will continue on. Heather Humphreys, thank you very much for coming in to us tonight.